Hey guys, Andy here. Welcome to a little Twine game called In Darkness Dreaming. It's by Bryce Duzan, who also was one of the creators for Who We Are Now, another great visual novel that I'm highly anticipating for the summer release. Well, a part of it anyway. But yeah, I'm really fucking excited for both of this, and I love Bryce. His work is amazing. Uh, our story begins. My name is Octavian Dramas. I'm a recent graduate of Harvard University and now a resident of Boston. My father was a famous lawyer, and it is with his esteemed estate that I'm able to follow in his footsteps. If only that's what I wanted. It is 1920 and the country is still reeling from a massive war that spanned the globe. The tragedy was so great that its ripples are still felt. The populace has reacted to this event in varied ways, and it is these ways that fascinate me. New forms of art such as surrealism and Dadaism are forming. Drug and alcohol use is on the rise to such an extent that the government has banned the trade and consumption of alcohol entirely. But you cannot remove an opiate the masses so desperately crave. Secret establishments still trade in the so-called devil's drink, and it is to one of these places now and it is to one of these places I now go to visit friends and to get lost in a shared haze. It is not a night I will soon forget. Call me a man bored with his own station in life, as privileged as it is. It is man's nature to feel restless, it seems. So I go to these depraved places to feel detached, unhinged from the drudgery of the day. Currently, I work as a paralegal for a renowned lawyer in town. My father's reputation granted me this position. It is his wish that I follow in his footsteps and become a lawyer just as grand as he. Truly, I'm more interested in the inner workings of the human mind and what is able to create. My father settled estates, wresting money from one member of the bourgeoisie to give to another. What concern of mine is that? There's art, true art, being created on the streets, of worlds unknown and states of being unheard of. That is where life is to be lived. But I waste my time arguing with ghosts. That will do no good, especially now. Tonight, I release myself from the angst. Tonight, I live. These establishments. I can't fucking read. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. These establishments, due to their nature, always attract a more brusque crowd than the haunts I used to frequent in my college days. At first I feared them, but soon I realized they just came here to drink, same as everyone else. My friends and I caroused and drank for many hours. I made it my goal to seek out and surround myself with creators, those who pave the way in terms of art and thinking. These men and women will rule the world someday, of that I'm certain. Some are older, but most are around my own age. I try to hide my station as best as I can. Most of these folks were not born into my sort of circumstances, and I must admit some amount of shame in my upbringing. I feel robbed of the wisdom and creativity these people develop by having to survive on their own. I have heard of wealthy patrons funding struggling artists. Perhaps that is something I can do as well. I snap out of my thoughts and look around the speakeasy. Make ice with a stranger, talk to a friend, or continue to drink. If it were me, I would just fucking drink, but let's make ice with a stranger. I scan the crowd before my gaze alights on a boy across the way. He's gorgeous, my age, laughing with a group of others. He turns his eyes away from his friends to take a drink. For a moment, our eyes meet. He narrows his eyes, then turns back to his friend, a slight, as if I should expect differently. The night progresses, and before I know it, people are beginning to leave. I linger a bit longer, then make my way home as well. As I stumble outside, I can't help but think of nights similar to these. My mind turns to another, a friend I hadn't seen in a long time. His name was Jacob. We were friends in college, and on nights like tonight, he would walk me home after a night of drinking. One night, as we said our goodbyes on my doorstep, he had awkwardly lurched forward, kissing me. After kissing on the step for a few minutes, I pulled him into my home. We spent many evenings locked in each other's arms. We graduated, as students do, and went our separate ways. We corresponded for a time until I received his last letter a few months ago. He simply stated that he was getting married to a woman and that our letters had to cease. We would never see each other again, and that was that. I remember crying hot tears that night, tearing the letter into pieces over and over until they were so small I could not anymore, then tossing the pieces into the fire. I watched his letter burn and my own heart froze. Again, so lost in many thoughts. I didn't even notice I was not alone in the alley through which I currently walked. A figure stood in front of me. A shawl was wrapped so tightly around them that I could not make out their features. My hand instinctively went to my pocket, where I hid a small knife. "Please, sir," the wretched figure wheezed, "help out a struggling artist." The grip on the knife loosened slightly. An artist? What's an artist doing wandering in the alleyways of Boston this late at night? Why, looking for one such as you, of course. A patron of the arts like yourself cannot be found just anywhere. What what kind of art do you create? The figure pulled a satchel off their back. After digging in it for a few moments, they withdrew a statue. It was magnificent, although the alley was lit only by a street lamp. The dim light danced across the surface of the statue, as if it was made out of precious metals and not stone. "It's gorgeous," I murmured. "Then you must purchase it, sir," the figure said. I could not tell, but they appeared to be grinning. Nevertheless, I found myself reaching into my pocket. This is not how patrons work, I was certain, but when an opportunity like this presented itself, I was not going to deny it. "How much?" I asked. The silhouette hemmed and hawed for a moment. $100. 100? The price seemed more than anticipated, but it would surely be enough to help this poor artist get on their feet. "Very well," I said. "It's a deal." I pulled the money free from my clasp and handed it to them. They snatched it from my grasp greedily and secreted it away into their shawl. I reached my hand toward the statue and the artist grabbed my wrist in a grip of iron. They pulled me close and spoke to me in a hushed whisper. "Trust me, my lord," they hissed. "This piece will guide you to what you seek." My eyes went wide. "What I seek? How do you know what I seek?" I got only a mocking laugh in reply. The artist pushed the statue into my hands. I looked at it, into it almost. It seemed to contain multitudes within itself. How was it polished to such a shine? I looked up and the artist was gone. I quickly walked home with the statue in tow. I returned home without further incident. Once there, I went to my bedroom immediately. Usually, on a night like tonight, I would languish awake for an hour or more, working on dull poetry or trying to paint a sloppy watercolor, pretending to be like them. Tonight's encounter, however, left me strangely exhausted that I could do little more than place the statue on the dresser opposite my bed before I decided to retire. I slept fitfully that night, strange dreams washing over me like a torrid tide. I couldn't remember much of them after the fact, just whispers at the edge of my mind. I woke in the morning and the statue was the first thing I saw. It is a beautiful sight to see in the morning light. Now that I can see it more clearly, it's difficult to truly understand. The statue twists and curls on itself, a strange abstract piece, and yet, as I get dressed for the day, I catch it out of the corner of my eye and swear there's a face carved into it. Another trick of the light, I suppose. I go to my drudgery-filled place of employ and fulfill my duties. One strange incident occurred, however. I was poring over files for a case when I came across one in particular. The name, Jacob Hayes. At once his face appeared in my mind's eye. Jacob? I blinked to clear my vision, and the name was gone, replaced by another. Why is it he sits in my mind now, of all times? I shook off the strange sensation I felt and resumed the task at hand. The rest of the day proceeded apace. As I returned home, I decided to study the statue in greater detail. While there was still light, I resolved to paint it. Doing so would allow me to drink in its details, I believed. Still life was the one method of painting I was any good at, and the irony that my only talent was that replication was not lost on me. I brought the statue into my study and set up my easel and paints. I adjusted the statue, turning it this way and that until it caught the waning sunlight in a particular captivating way. Then I went to work. For some odd reason, the task was more difficult than expected. Each time I looked from my painting to the statue, my subject seemed to have shifted ever so slightly. This feeling quickly changed from curious to frustrating. I cursed my place of work for tiring me so easily. Clearly, that was the source of this. Nevertheless, I was determined to paint it to the best of my ability. After a challenging number of hours, it was done. Much to my surprise, as I put the finishing touches on this piece, it seemed to match the statue rather closely, despite my struggling. There was something curious about the painting, however. Yes, there was something that caught my eye, even though I wasn't entirely sure of what. It seemed, as I changed my own perspective, the painting changed as well, as if it was building a picture. I just had to find the right angle. Octavian. Yes, it seemed if I crouched down low, almost lying down on the ground, and stared up at the picture, I could see something. I still feel you, Octavian. I grunted as I shifted my body slightly from side to side, trying to see what I was looking at. Then all at once, it snapped into place, like a jigsaw puzzle. I still see you, Octavian. As a face. I still need you, Octavian. His face. Octavian. At once, I sprang to my feet and smashed the easel to the ground. I felt the pain crack. I stood over the wreckage. I panted, sweat running down my face, my fists clenched, as I stared down at the broken painting. What had I just seen? Was it really him? Was it really Jacob? No, that's impossible. I looked to the statue. I suddenly felt wary of the thing, as if it somehow inflicted this illusion. I let out a sigh, allowing myself to relax. This is just all in my mind. It's been a long day. I just need some rest. I think briefly of taking the statue with me, but I decide against it. It can stay here for now. I do not feel comfortable taking it into my bedroom for now. I go to bed, my mind still churning through what had just happened to me. I lied in my bed, awake for a while, staring into the darkness. Eventually, sleep took me, and once again I dreamt, though this time I remember it vividly. I am chasing a figure dressed in a long graying robe. They move effortlessly down alleyways and side streets, and I feel like I am walking in knee-deep water trying to catch them. Eventually, the streets begin to subside, giving way to inky darkness. I trudge on foot, my foot's echoing off the nothingness. Eventually, I reach the person, their back is to me. I begin to approach, but I am suddenly jerked backwards. I turn and look. A shadowy tendril has come forth from the darkness and wrapped itself around my wrist, holding it tight. Another pull from the other arm, and I realize I have been immobilized. The figure now turns toward me, achingly slowly, and moves toward me. They move with a strange grace, almost as if they are floating, not walking. Who are you? I call out to them. Octavian. Their voice swims through my mind, grazing my consciousness like a knife. Do you not remember me? I don't know what you mean. The figure drew close, a mere few inches away from me now. Still, I couldn't see their face under their hood, just void. One arm raised, and the sleeve fell to the side, revealing a hand. The hand touched my face. Its touch was like an icy dagger. I flinched away, but there was nowhere I could go. The person ran their hair through my hair. The person ran their hand through my hair, there we go, and thought it was bitterly cold. I still adored it. I hadn't been touched this way in a long time. There, my darling boy. I have hurt you, dearly. For that I am sorry. Hurt me? What do you mean? As I spoke, I watched with horror as a tendril slid out of their sleeve, just under the hand stroking my hair. It lazily worked its way up my chest and to my shoulder, then, with lightning speed, wrapped itself around my throat. It began to squeeze. The tendrils holding my arms suddenly pulled down, forcing me to my knees. The one around my neck was like a vice. I tried to breathe but could not. Oh, Octavian, pain is passage, do you not see? As we bleed, we move forward. As we choke, we grow. Understand? I gasped. Ah, yes, of course. They kneel down, their visage still hidden even though it loomed in front of me. You are beautiful, even as life leaves you, Octavian. My vision begins to swim. My lungs were crying out in pain. You used to love my hands around your neck, Octavian. You used to love losing your grip on this rod, and each time I would bring you screaming back. A hand goes to their hood, gingerly pulling it back. Jacob. My eyes snap open. A flurry of sensations assault me all at once. Daggers of water pelt my naked flesh. I'm kneeling outside in the rain. How did I get here? I suddenly realize that I'm freezing. I throw my arms around my bare chest and move out of the alleyway I'm in. Once I get to Main Street, I realize I am not far from home. After a few minutes of quickly plodding through the wet, I am there. I dry myself in front of the fire before I catch pneumonia. My mind is still racing, trying to figure out the series of events that had just occurred. What affliction had gripped me so to wander the streets of Boston half naked and in the rain? I was never prone to walking in my sleep, and even if I had, surely the cold would have stirred me. And that dream, and Jacob, it felt so real. My throat still ached as if it were real. In fact, as I studied myself in the bedroom mirror, I could swear that I had light breezes. Wait, I spotted something in the mirror's reflection. The statue. It moved. I stared at the thing in the reflection of my mirror. I twisted around to look at it. It was still there. How had it moved from the study? Is it possible I had moved it while I was dreaming? That seems unlikely. Gingerly, I hoisted it and returned it to the study. With that done, I returned to my bedroom and sat on my bed. Do I trust myself to sleep? I suppose it is unavoidable. I extinguished my light and laid upon the bed, staring up at the ceiling. Why have I seen Jacob so many times? The strange artist's words echoed through my mind. This piece will guide you to what you seek. Nonsense. Utter nonsense. I felt alone, happy, afraid. Ah, we'll go happy. Some perverse part of me felt a surge of joy at the experience, despite everything. I had seen his beautiful face. Why does anything else matter? Eventually, I fell asleep. I woke to the sun peeking in my windows. Lifting my head, I slowly looked to my dresser. The statue was not there. I breathed a small sigh of relief. I spent the morning readying myself for work, avoiding the study at all costs. The rain from last night had continued into the day, casting the city in a gray pall. I did not mind the rain so much. It brought a certain calmness to the usually busy town. I liked the rain, in a small way. As long as you're not chasing specters in it, I thought to myself. No, push that thought aside. Last night was strange, but everyone is owed a bit of strangeness now and then. I walked to the offices, keeping my umbrella overhead. For once, I craved the drudgery of the working day. It would take my mind off recent events. How wrong I was. The office was dark when I arrived. A note on the front desk informed me that my manager was homesick. Fine, normally I would relish the chance to return home, but I had plenty to busy myself with and I was not ready to face my study again just yet. After an hour or so of filling and filing paperwork, I heard the bell of the front door being opened. Had I left it unlocked accidentally? I'm afraid we are closed, I called out. No response. Perhaps he saw the office was dark and left. Hello? Still nothing. I got up from my desk and slowly rounded the corner to the front of the office. There is a letter on the desk. On the front was written, in neat handwriting, My dearest Octavian. The handwriting was familiar. I slowly opened the envelope and withdrew the parchment within. I unfolded the letter and began to read. Octavian, first I must apologize for my eagerness. It has been so long since we had seen each other, and I admit that I may have been overzealous in my approach last night. I understand that you may be confused. Do not worry, my dear. I will explain everything to you. We shall see each other again soon. Jacob. I let the paper fall from my grasp. None of this made sense. Jacob was writing to me. It must be him, surely. Nobody else knew about our attraction for each other. God knows I haven't told a soul, and considering his marriage, I doubt he would have either. Why is he writing to me now? Far more distressingly, he references my dream last night. How would he have any idea of that? We shall see each other again soon. This is too much. I quickly locked up the office and headed home. Someone is trying to trick me. I do not know who. A rival of my father's? A jealous, hateful person who seeks to break me down? Somehow they found out about Jacob and I are using this emotional blackmail against me. But why? I didn't have any answers, only more questions. I returned home and slammed the door shut behind me. I immediately realized that while I had much motivation to do something about my current situation, I had not a clue as to where to start. The star started with the artist, but I do not have a name. I do not even know their appearance. At this point, it seemed best to stay home and wait. If Jacob, or whoever it really is, was intent on making good his promise to see me, then it seemed obvious enough he would visit me at my home. So I would wait for him. I busied myself as I waited, cleaning, writing journal entries, and reading. Every so often I would check the study, making sure the statue hadn't moved. It stayed where it was. Eventually, night fell. An hour or two later, there was a knock at the door. My heart immediately started to pound within my chest. I walked slowly to the door. I put my ear to it and listened. Nothing. Gingerly, I began to open the door. Suddenly, it flew open, knocking me backwards. Before I could scramble to my feet, I saw who was on the other side and froze. The figure in gray from my dreams. I simply could not move. I was transfixed by the nightmarish figure made manifest. They strode through the doorway, the fraying robes they wore brushing against the frame. With one smooth motion, they removed their hood. My eyes widened. It can't be. Can it? Jacob replied. His face, his gorgeous face. Everything was how I remembered it, as if he hadn't aged a day since we parted ways. Jacob, is that really you? I asked in disbelief. Why wouldn't it be Octavian? He offered me a hand up and I took it. I don't understand, Jacob. Did you cause all this? Why the secrecy? How could you? He put a finger to my lips. Do not think of that now, my darling boy. It's been so long since I've seen you. I want to enjoy this moment. As he spoke, his hand stroked my cheek, then worked its way to the back of my head. He ran his fingers through my hair, then lightly pushed as he guided his lips to mine. It's just as I remembered, gentleness that bellied and hungered just under the surface. As I kissed him, all of my feelings for him, my memories, came flooding back. Warning: this scene contains graphic descriptions of two men having sex. You wish to read the scene or skip it. It's my goddamn channel, and I've already had to read some erotic visual novels, so we're gonna fucking read it. As we kissed by the open door, I felt my mind wander. I remembered our first time we had found ourselves like this, the confusion and excitement I had felt. Those feelings were coming back to me again. I didn't realize how dearly I had missed him. He pushed me up against the wall, his hands feeling their way up and down my torso. He pushed my head to the side and began to kiss up and down my neck, offering little bites every now and then. I was in ecstasy. After a while, he pulled back. Where's your bedroom? He asked. I nodded in its direction. He smiled. Show me. I took his hand and led him there. Maybe I shouldn't have fucking did this. We had barely stepped inside when I felt his hands pulling my shirt off of me from behind. He wrapped his arms around me and we kissed. Then he pushed me onto the bed. He pulled his robes off, revealing his bare chest and pants that cut off at his knees. He crawled on top of me. My hands pawed at his pants, loosening his buttons before pulling them off entirely. He did the same for me. We lay naked, kissing, using our lips and our tongues on various parts of each other. It was beautiful paradise. I laid him down on his back, then kissed my way down his chest, down his stomach. I wrapped my lips around his dick, moving my head up and down it. He moaned in appreciation. I continued in this fashion for a minute or so until it was properly wet. Then I straddled him, pushing his dick inside of me. It hurt. It's been a while since I've done this, but God does it feel good. I let out a gasping sigh once he's completely inside me. I start to write him. We make love like this for quite a while. It was incredible. Better than it had ever been. I was still in disbelief that he was here, but I didn't have much time to dwell on it at the moment. Eventually, the pleasure was too much for me to bear. I wrapped a hand around my own dick and finished the job, ejaculating onto his stomach and chest. He grinned up at me, a wolfish smile. Then I felt him thrust up inside me and climax as well. His groans matched mine in those final thrusts. After he finished, I laid on top of him. Amazing as always, sir, I murmured sleepily. I was suddenly incredibly tired. Octavian, you flatterer. He smirked. He wrapped his arms around me and held me. We slept, wrapped in each other's embrace. I woke to an empty bed. I blinked away the sleep, then bolted upright when I realized a note was resting on the pillow next to me. I hastily opened it. Dearest Octavian, I will visit you again tonight. Yours, Jacob. Tonight. But why? Where did he go? I was incredibly tired. weak almost. Nevertheless, I dragged myself out of bed and prepared for the day. Then I stepped into the study. I froze at what I saw. The statue had grown. 3 black tentacles were now reaching out on the top of the statue. I slowly approached it, gingerly reaching out a hand. I touched one of the tentacles. It felt like stone. I breathed a small sigh of relief that they were not real. But still, how did this happen? Was it something that coincided with Jacob's visit? I pushed my thoughts to the side for now. It was something I would have to deal with later. I left for work, eager for Jacob to come back. We continued in this fashion for a week. I would work for the day, come home, and wait for him. When evening fell, he would arrive just the same. We would make love, beautiful love. Then, in the morning, he'd be gone again. A fresh note by my side saying he would be back in the evening. Something was wrong, though. I was beginning to suffer. I don't know what happened, possibly an illness, but after a few days I started to feel much weaker with each morning. I decided to stay in bed and rest, skipping work. The next day was the same, and the day after that, it was becoming difficult to move when I awoke. Something was dreadfully wrong with me, I feared. By the evening, I usually felt better, well, enough at least to receive Jacob. Tonight was no different. We made love, loudly, eagerly, as if it was the first time. As we finished, sleep threatened to overtake me almost immediately. I struggled to stay awake and managed to murmur, "I want to know what's going on." Before I fell unconscious, I heard his reply, "You will." Next thing I knew, it was morning. I threw the covers aside and attempted to get out of bed. As soon as my feet touched the ground, however, my legs buckled. I fell onto the wall, sliding down it to the floor. What is happening to me? It took some time for me to gather enough strength to stand. When I finally had, I opened Jacob's note, like I did every morning. "My dearest Octavian, if you want to know the truth, seek me out tonight. I will be in the alleys. You will know where to find me. Jacob." I will know how to find him. My mind began to race with this strange information. I stepped into the study, nearly tripping in the process. The statue had continued to grow in this past week, but now it was as if it had blossomed like a flower. The tentacles had engulfed the desk that the statue rested on and had begun to invade the rest of the room. Now, though, there was something else. A figure had emerged from the top of the statue, hands raised to the sky. The tentacles, it could now be seen, were coming out of the figure, from under its robes and out of its sleeves, its hood. This figure looked familiar. The robes. My stomach dropped. Those are the exact robes Jacob would wear, that the figure in my dreams wore. The feeling that was something very, very wrong began to creep up my spine. That person who I was making love to every night, they were not Jacob. They looked like Jacob, sound like him, smell like him, make love as fiercely and beautifully as he does, but this figure that had been visiting me is not Jacob. I have allowed myself to fall for this doppelganger in the hopes that I could reclaim the life I had with him. But no, Jacob is not here. He's with his wife, safe and sound, not thinking of me. I fell to my knees. Has my life become this? I started to cry. I missed him. God, I missed him. Is it so wrong that all I wanted was him back in my life? Damn it all, I just want him. I wiped the tears from my eyes. Crying now wasn't going to help anything. I need to fix this. And it starts with destroying the statue. I went through my supplies, digging until I found a large hammer. I hoisted it above my head and brought it down hard on the statue. It bounced off harmlessly. I wailed on the statue for what felt like hours, but was not able to do so much as chip a fragment off. It was impervious. I stared uselessly at the thing. I wouldn't even be able to take it out of the house by now, with how it had worked and winded around every bit of furniture in the study. I was going to have to go about this in a different way, it seemed. I began to prepare for the evening. Evening came soon enough. Jacob's words were cryptic. I would know where to find him. He can't mean where we first met, could he? Jacob and I had met while we both happened to be visiting Boston at the same time, a small bar now condemned. How would this being know that information? Some small part of me clung to the feeble hope that this really was Jacob, but the rest of me could not believe it any more. I stalked the streets and alleys of Boston, avoiding strangers' gazes. Soon I turned down an alleyway, and there it was, and there he was. His head lifted as I approached, his eyes meeting mine. He still wore the frayed robes, though the hood was down. He spoke, and his words froze me in its place. His voice had taken on an otherworldly cadence. It was the voice that spoke to me in my dream, which seemed like so long ago. Octavian, you came. I'm so happy. Jacob, you're going to tell me what's going on now, right? Of course, my darling boy, but first an apology. For what? I came to you, Octavian, because of the ache in your heart. I soothed that ache, did I not? And in exchange you gave me life. Sadly, I am not yet complete, but tonight I shall be. Jacob lifted off the ground, blackened tendrils spilling from the bottom of my robe. One of them came for me, reaching towards my throat. I felt it wrap around my neck, just as in my dream. I managed to put my hand around it before I started to squeeze, allowing myself a small bit of air. I've come from beyond the stars, Octavian. I've been drawn to you since that fateful day that Jacob loosened his ties with you. Your heart ached. It called out for intimacy, for flesh to caress. And I heard your call. Haven't I been giving you what you want? Haven't I provided what you need? And in return, you helped me grow. The tentacle squeezed and every muscle in my arm tensed as I tried to pull it away from my neck. Once you're dead, my transformation will be complete. I ruled over this planet once, and after tonight, my reign over this world will begin anew. I won't let that happen. I withdrew the handgun I had purchased earlier and leveled it at Jacob. I yelled out. I pulled the trigger. Blam! Nothing. The creature was unaffected. A fresh hole in its throat smoked, but Jacob only smirked at me. Is that all, Octavian? I loosed another shot. Blam! Still nothing. Terror began to creep up my spine as I realized the futility of my actions. Blam! 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 Oh, Octavian, when will you learn? Then Jacob began to change. His face split along his mouth and cracked open like an egg. The top half of his head flung open and more of the awful tentacle spilled out of it. More pieces of him cracked open and his terrible form began to take control of the alleyway, twisting around like posts in science. As he transformed, I felt the tendril around my neck loosen ever so slightly. It was just enough for me to throw it off, and then I ran. I sprinted down alleyways, unable to stop. My mind plotted out my route. I wasn't going home. He knows where I live. But that thing was drawn to me because of Jacob. Then I need to cut out that part of me off. I need to see Jacob. I didn't know what I would do once I found him, but it's the only thing I had. I rented a car and began to drive out of Boston. One of Jacob's letters lay in the seat next to me. My sentimental foolishness paid off for once. It had an address. I prayed that he still lived there. Luckily, he was still in Massachusetts, so it would only be a couple of hours to get there. What would I do when I got there? What would I say? I had nothing. No prepared heartfelt speeches, just fear and desperation. I tried not to think about it as I drove. The only thing I cared about was stopping this. Well, not the only thing. Seeing him, the real him, again still made my heart flutter. How would he react? The mile seemed to drag on, but before I knew it, I was there. Lights were still on in his house, at least. I sat in the car, staring at Jacob's home for a while, slowly gathering the courage to talk to him. I breathed in deeply, then exited the car. I gingerly knocked on the door and waited. After a few minutes, it opened. It was him. I immediately couldn't believe that I fell for his facsimile. I can't fucking read that word, okay? He was far more handsome here in front of me. Was my loneliness that great? Octavian, he stammered, surprised. Hello, Jacob. What are you doing here? I came here on important business. May I come in? Of course, my wife isn't home right now. I prickled at the word wife, but tried not to show it. I walked inside. Can I get you something? Tea? No, I doubt I'll be staying long. Well, what can I help you with, Jacob? Confess my love for him, or tell him. Don't give me options. Don't ever make me don't fucking give me choices like that, for fuck's sake. I know this has been going on for 30 minutes, but at this point, this is a bad thing to give me as an option. Confess or tell him the truth. Uh, God damn it. I'm hoping if I confess my love, he just kills me, because holy shit, that'd be so much easier. And the truth, what? Oh, there's a monster following me. I just got done playing a fucking monster game. Uh, let's just confess our love. Let's see what the hell happens, okay? I I can't stop thinking about you, Jacob. I know it's been some time since college. I know we haven't had the chance to see each other since then. I know you're married now, but you're all I can think of about still. I I love you, Jacob. He looked shocked for a moment, then his features smoothed. He looked sad. Oh, Octavian. That's all I needed. I tried to choke back the tears, but they came all the same. He put an arm around me and led me to the couch. We sat and I sobbed. I'm sorry, I coughed. This is the last thing you need. I know, a foolish boy showing up on your doorstep proclaiming his love for you, but I had to say something. I understand, Octavian. I wish I could return those feelings. I do. You are a special person and I do not regret our time together. Not for a second, but life goes on. It mustn't it? I wiped my eyes. Yes, I suppose it must. I'm sorry. For what? For all the pain I've caused. I looked into his eyes, trying to discern some meaning. How am I supposed to find someone else like you, Jacob? I'm nobody special, Octavian. That's not true. You're special. To me. That means a lot to me, Octavian. It really does, Jacob sighed. It won't be easy, I'm sure, with how society views men like us, but you, Octavian, you are special. I know you'll catch a handsome young man's eyes and steal his heart. I tried not to, but I cracked a smile anyway. You are always too sweet for your own good, I chuckled, then sighed. What's your name? Catherine. I I hope you treat her well, and she does the same for you. Thank you, Octavian. Unexpectedly, he hugged me. Tears threatened to overtake me again, but I held them back this time. I should go. Are you sure? Yes, I feel like a stranger here. I should let you get back to your own life and I should return to mine. He smiled, that beautiful smile. Write me sometime, Octavian. I will. I left. Maybe I should feel like I missed my chance. Maybe I should break down into tears again, perhaps. All I feel, however, is that a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. All that has happened has melted away. The weakness I felt is gone. I got back into my car. With one last look at his home, I drove off. I prayed that I wouldn't be returning to Boston in ruins. The city was still standing when I returned. The sun was beginning to rise, casting a gray pall over the city as I arrived. I returned the car and walked home. The few who populated the streets at this early hour looked normal, not a panicked or shifty. Was this past week just a bad dream? Or is that creature waiting for me at my home? I peered into the windows of my residence, not able to spot anything. Hesitantly, I fed the key into its lock and slowly pushed open the door. Silence greeted me. My home was empty. I walked into the study and saw that the statue was no more. It seemed to have dissolved into a strange black powder, like charcoal. I finally allowed myself to breathe. Is it over? The next day's paper confirmed it. Police had found a gray robe amidst a patch of odd black muck. The creature was no more. There's still much I didn't understand, how the artist found me, what that creature even was, and how it invaded my dreams. But it didn't matter. It was over. Nobody would know about the strange incident. For me, it was a new day. I decided not to spend it alone. The end. Oh my god, that was so good. I loved it. Bryce, you're amazing. You're an amazing writer. I fucking loved it. But I totally want a spinoff of just Jacob and Octavian now, just like just there, just hanging out in the distance, in the beginning. But yeah, that was In Darkness streaming, and my voice is actually really getting tired now, and I have to go to work in a few hours. Oh, but that was so good, and I do apologize for its length. I was anticipating its length because Bryce is a really good fucking writer. But yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you really fucking soon for some more. Just ignore them. You'll be getting the final installments tomorrow, and then we kick off a brand new series next week. Two, if I plan it correctly. So as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all really fucking soon for some more kick-ass content. Bye for now. Bye for now.